Hey guys, it's Godbars here, the self-proclaimed hip-hop historian, and this is the 412th episode of my series, where I grab a vinyl from my collection, talk about why I love it, what influence it has, and what its place is in the grand scheme of hip-hop. So getting back to someone who really needs no introduction, Ghostface Killah is easily one of the most heavily featured acts on this page. In fact, I think the only person with more would be MF Doom. But even with all those various monikers, Ghost is still getting pretty close to catching up. And while today's LP wasn't exactly released under an alias, it did sort of remind me of what Doom did on 2009's Born Like This, where he famously just released it under Doom, opting to cut out the usual MF. Not dissimilar to that, back in 2004, Ghostface would put out the Pretty Toney album here, just under the name Ghostface, taking out the Killah. And it was for that reason that this thing fell under my radar for a number of years. And I ended up hearing it a while after I'd already become well accustomed to his main discography, and it also didn't help that the few times I had seen this LP mentioned online, I think I just assumed it was a compilation or something, mainly due to the somewhat unimaginative album cover, which I'm still not a huge fan of. I know I probably put too much stock into that when compared to the normal person, but for some reason I find it a bit harder to connect with albums when the cover art and title don't really resonate with me in any way. And this in fact is one of the few examples I can think of where the music is dope enough to override that instinct. Though I do owe a large amount of the thanks to the track Run, which features Jadakiss of the Lox, and was also one of the lead singles off the Pretty Toney album. However, while both legends snap on their verses and together provide one of the strongest points on the entire record, I first heard this track through the remix that showed up on the Ghostini the Great compilation. And it's pretty hard to debate that the remix isn't the superior version, because it keeps the stellar performances from Jada and Ghost, as they were in the original, but it also adds on a few more legends to turn this song into a bona fide posse cut, and these names consisted of Freeway, Raekwon, and Lil Wayne, who takes the final verse and definitely holds his own. In fact, this is usually one of the first Weezy tracks that comes to my mind when I'm thinking in terms of his best guest appearances. However, while it comes to the version we receive here, I would probably have to give Jadakiss the edge for best verse, since even just the opening 4 bars are so memorable and timeless, where he says, "It's Task Force Tuesday, the Narcs is in the black car. I got 500 packs in my backyard. Clear 1212s that look like stuffed shells. I'm cutting dudes' throats on the cells while they puff L's. Don't leave nothing unbagged, shave everything. I learned from the OGs, save everything. They come by one more time, they go hop out. They too deep and one is a bitch, they get knocked out." As I mentioned earlier, GFK and his solo work have been covered on this page many times before now, some of which include Supreme Clientele, Iron Man, Fish Scale, and Sour Soul, but the definite holy grail for me in terms of Ghostface albums I haven't found yet, as I've mentioned before, is 2009's Ghostini, Wizard of Poetry in Emerald City. I've come to the realization that most fans seem to hold the Pretty Toney album here in a higher regard than that one. While I personally return to Wizard of Poetry much more frequently, upon reflection I can definitely at least understand why the average Wu-Tang aficionado would maybe prefer this thing, because after all, Ghostini was a major departure from what we were used to. And if you aren't necessarily into R&B, I could see how you would maybe gravitate more towards the grimy and expansive nature of this LP. I may have said I preferred Bulletproof Wallets in my review for that project, but the Pretty Toney album here does feature many of the same elements, from the jazzy, colorful boom-bap production, to Ghostface Killah's dense, luxurious, dope-dealing bars. And I really enjoy how a number of the instrumentals here take these classic, well-known samples and put a brand new spin on them. And one of those killer moments I want to share some bars from is the track Be This Way. Not only is this grimy beat full of top-tier chops paired with lush violin strings, but it also gives us a flash of classic Ghost, where he proved how his spot as one of the best to ever do it was still fully intact, kicking the verse off with "Live from Staten Island where the gangsters kill." Only place on the map they got the $30 bill. And we front like we got millions. Our specialty is how we willy, homie. That's how Buck brought the building, and the police is pussy. They protect and serve, they connect with base heads when they frisk our birds. Smack DVDs, blow an herb. I'm in the room, boning these two white bitches, ice bagging up work. That's how we get down, fuck Vegas. The black Carlo Gambino rocking the wallows. Blow his diamonds and Xenos. Spicy versus his jalapenos. Best believe when I'm in the big Escalade, I'm sitting on Dino. Tone Stark, a poet's art. Kiss the girls and bake them pies. Clean up summer old darts. This that real live Dawn shit, you heard? Of course, I already touched on one of the featured artists here, that being Jadakiss. But we do have a few other contemporaries who make guest appearances, including Tripe the God, A La Real, Jackie O, Music Soulchild, K Fox, Missy Elliott, along with both Chic and Styles P of the Locks. When it comes to my overall top 3 favorites on this one, I think I would have to go with Be This Way, Run, and Holla, but I definitely still want to recommend some honorable mentions, in the form of tracks like Biscuits, Beat the Clock, Metal Lungies, Save Me Dear, Tush, Tooken Back, Love, It's Over, and Ghostface. Thank you for watching my 412th video. Next time we're touching on a late legend who's been on the page many times for his work in a duo, but this will be his first ever solo project we touch on. So check in for that one, and if you enjoyed, be sure to like, subscribe, and let me know what your favorite moments off of this sleeper pick are. Don't forget to have a great day, and I'll see you next time, okay? All right.